Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we're going to make a custom ash house number sign. I really enjoy working with real wood here in the shop, and this ash house number sign is a great example of what's possible. Now, when we're working with real wood, there are some real issues with the wood, and one of them is warping and flatness. When we use our CNC router, what we're doing is flattening the board so that, as you can see, it's completely flat. And the reason why you want that is because when it goes into the CNC laser behind me, all the focal distance for the burning, which is what you see here, this is not a paint fill, this is actually the laser burning into the material. All of that is completely consistent, minus of course the grain patterns that exist in the wood. I'm not sure if you noticed or not, but while we were CNC routering this piece of ash totally flat, we actually did both sides. And the reason for that is because there's no point flattening one side and then having the other side all warped for you. Because when you hang this on a wall or you put it on a post or something like that, you still want the sign to be flat because it makes it easier for putting screws through the back. Now, what you see here as the contrast is actually produced by the laser. So there is no paint put onto this material. Now the nice thing about that is there's nothing that's going to fade, crack, or peel off over time, because the only thing there is charcoal from the natural wood. Now this sign of course is unfinished. It will have a varnish put over it so that it seals everything up, so that it is really a for-weather sign. So whether it's the wintertime, summertime, whatever, the wood will always look great and you always have nice contrast. Another thing to keep in mind is the depth. Now we're not crazy deep, we're about, I'd say 2 millimeters or a little bit more than 1/16 inch deep into the material. Now there's no point going a 1/4 inch or really deep into it because you don't really need to do that. And the nice thing about having a wooden sign is that after a few years, when maybe you think it starts to fade just the color on the surface of the wood, just from the UV light, what you can do is just sand it over again and you have a fresh sign. Now through the whole process, you notice that this is actually a rectangle, but I start off with a piece of live edge. Real wood comes in that format. It comes, with the bark and all the other stuff. So what we're doing is, after it's kiln dried, what we do is we do the work on the surface of it, and then at the very end we cut it out to size and sand it. Now if you look at the thickness, it's roughly 2 inches thick, so it's definitely a beefy house number sign made out of ash. But if, let's say, you preferred something like this out of walnut, or you preferred something out of another wood species, we can do that for you here in the shop as well. The other thing is, because of our production technique, if you wanted, let's say, 3 or 4 signs and you wanted them with different house numbers, or you wanted some messages to be on them, that's not a problem for us at all. You still get a volume discount because we're using basically the same piece of wood, if that's the case. Other things to keep in mind is when we're doing the laser engraving and the CNC routering on the sign, you want to pay close attention to any sort of material defects. Now you'll notice that a piece that I cut off of this sign was actually wrought. Now real wood has wrought, real wood has knots, real wood has some character to it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The nice thing about ash is that, as you can see, there's not much on the surface to distract you. Now of course, if I left a huge knot here, it'd be a total distraction. But ash is a pretty consistent material on the surface of it. And that's really nice because it makes the laser engraving pop out that much more, especially after a varnish is applied to it. So if you're looking for a custom wooden sign, contact me at CNCKing.com. We can make it out of essentially any species, any kind of wood you want, whether you want it out of plywood, or you want it out of corian, or you want it out of live edge, or as you saw here, live edge that we cut to size for the spec of the customer. Just contact me and we can go about making the sign just for you.